Hey YouTube, this is Scott coming at you. Wanted to run through my hexagon build. This was pretty easy build once you wrap your head around the internal angles of the hexagon and you figure out how to use your saws with that 30-degree cut. It is challenging, but once you get it visualized and laid out, it grows pretty smooth, pretty quick. First thing I did, I surveyed the materials I had in the garage. I mostly had 2x8s, by 8 foot long timbers. First I went to the chop saw, cut down the boards into 3 pieces. This gave me 3 32-inch long boards. I did that with the second board, so I had 6 pieces in total, 2x8 by 32 inches long. Next I went to the table saw, ripped each of those pieces down the middle, ended up with 12 pieces. These are going to make up each half of the leg, of the 6 legs of the hexagon. Going to the table saw with the 30-degree angle, you rest the board on your stop and rip the boards, just taking off one of the exterior corners. This gives you that nice internal angle of 60 degrees to meet up with another piece once they're all ripped. Secure it and you'll get that 120-degree internal angle. Once I had my legs ripped out, I took a width measurement to see how much space I needed between each leg to match the size of my hexagon aquarium. In my case, the aquarium was 10.5 inches per side. So I just made a filler piece for the top and bottom to connect 2 leg sections, so my overall width would be 10.5. Here you can see 3 sections, 2 legs per section. These will make up the size of the hexagon tank. Once I had these completed, these 3 sides, I went ahead and connected the remaining sides with more filler pieces. One thing to note, I realized that I wasn't going to have much room between the legs. So on 2 of the legs, I ripped down the side by about, I'd say, an inch, 1.5 inches. Gave me a wider opening on one of the faces of the cabinet. Once I finished assembling that, I had a frame of the legs, and then I was ready to move on to the top. The top, I used the same 2x8 material. Since I knew my tank was 10.5 inches per side, and I knew I wanted an overhang on the top and bottom, I went 12 inches with my top sections and bottom sections. I got my board, ripped them down to 12-inch sections with the miter box, and then I set my miter box at 30 degrees and cut 2 sides per board, laid it all out in it. Lo and behold, will make your hexagon. Connecting these is a little more challenging. For the whole build, I recommend using a countersink bit. I use the countersink bit to come in at an angle similar to a Kreg jig, and use wood screws, whatever I had, and wood glue to secure the pieces. This was really challenging to get the angles right. I think in the future I would have used a stop with my miter box to really get those angles and length dialed in to bring in my seam of the hexagon. After I screwed everything together, it was a little cattywampus, a little off kilter, so I took my dad's belt sander with 80 grit sandpaper and just went to town. It was a lot of work, but they turned out real smooth, real nice. Once I was done with that, I screwed them to the top of the frame that I built previously. The top and bottom were attached. My basement, I built a bar and then a matching area that holds a keg tapper, and I wanted to match that theme since this tank's going in the basement. So you can check all this out on my blog, by the way. I'll put some links down below. It's a real nice look. It has beadboard and wider board trim, and painted the whole thing white. So the next step I did with the stand is I put on some beadboard trim. One cool, really cool thing, I bought a piece of 4 by 32 inch pre-finished beadboard stock from Menards. It was about $9, I believe. It worked out beautifully with the exact height of my stand. So, real simple. I just used some wood glue, trim nails, used a nail gun, the compressor, shot those on, no problem. The corner trim was a little more challenging because you're dealing with that 120 degrees again. For that, I had some PVC trim board left over in my garage. They were 3 by 3/4 by 8. I ripped those down the middle, similar to the legs, on the table saw, set the table saw to 30 degrees again, and cut off that one corner. 2 pieces per side, per trim piece. These I glued together, and I held them together with the trim nailer. I did see previously people using PVC glue on the PVC trim, similar to PVC pipe. I've never done it before. I wasn't sure if it was going to bubble out the trim. I really wanted to keep that nice straight seam, so I ended up just sticking with the wood glue and the trim nails. Once I finished that on the front face, trimmed a little different. I needed to box out for a door. I used the full width of the trim at the top and bottom of the opening. And then for the sides, I used a little bit wider piece of trim. Maybe 3 inches, I would say. This gave me a wider flange, something to really disguise the opening, dress it up. I used 1/2 inch overhang European hinges for the door. The door is a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and the handle I just bought from Menards along with the hinges. The hinges were about $3 a piece. The handle, I think, was roughly $3 also. Then to finish it off, once completing the door installation, I went through and caulked all my seams, made everything look pretty nice. You know, everything always looks better after a nice caulking. I added finally a coat of white enamel paint on every surface to give it a nice uniform look, and that paint was $8. So that's 8. I did some others that say $10, 18. For the entire bill, not bad. One thing to mention I forgot to run through is around the top I recently got a new router, and I used a Roman OG bit around the top to get a really nice detail. Turned out really good. Just to know, maybe just some practice before you know, but you know, it was pretty easy, and I was really happy with it. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Next, I'm going to go into the tank, start getting into what I did for that to get it ready. Hope you enjoy.